Morning show's up and running. John, here, you there. Thanks for coming on SDH AM. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday, so who knows what's going to happen. I have a rundown, and it actually helps when I actually send the link for the guest to actually come in to the show to kind of actually be a guest instead of me just kind of sitting here and talking, which I know you guys don't want me to do for 2+ hours. Here's a rundown for today. It's a Red Clay check-in to start things off. We're going to catch up with our friend Mike Petite, and he is the head coach at Callaway and the head coach at Callaway. So we're going to catch up with him here in a second. We got a UPSL update happening. Margaret Fleming from Fun Office Sports is going to come by about 9:30. She's going to talk about the NWSL, specifically going into Columbus, the north one, not the one on the western frontier. And then at 10 o'clock, we'll kind of get you into the day. We'll go through everything Major League Soccer, juice boxes, who's in the middle, what to anticipate tonight with Atlanta and New England at Mercedes-Benz. And then at 10:30, our buddy Miguel Gallardo. Hopefully he will not be on a lanai someplace or in some wooded area in Central Florida. And we're going to catch up with him and let you know what is on his mind here in the midweek in Major League Soccer. Noon, it is Red Clay Wednesday, and we catch up with Daniel Cornejo, the head coach at Dooley County, and Chad Griffin out of Hebron Christian. So those two are going to be on at noon, and I think they've got the link to function. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee, blackpitchcoffee.com. Starting your day with the most important stories in the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee is part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy-bodied notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff, powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. So that means we go to Hogansville, catch up with our friend Mike Petite, and find out what's going on with the Callaway Club and the Callaway Club. So what's going on? What's going on?
Just a busy time of the year, as you well know. So you're cranked up full speed as the rest of the state is right about now.
Yep, and I have my brackets, and I'm trying to follow along as best I can. So when we went to go and visit in the big region matchup a handful of weeks ago, and it was knockdown drag out, which is what we anticipated on both the boys and the girls sides. What did you learn about the teams on that night that carried you through the rest of the regular season?
The girls, what did I learn about the girls? That is kind of who I thought we were and we're waiting to be. I think that it's taken the girls a little bit longer to kind of get to a team where we are consistently battling for 80 minutes. We've had ups and downs where we haven't competed all the time, and there's been times where we just haven't had to. But to be able to put that consistent performance in against a team like Morgan County with Coach Stamps out there, she's so good with them. It was really good to see us, and we've been able to do that pretty much ever since. I wouldn't say every single time because, I mean, consistency for anything at this level is pretty hard to come by. But for that night was good for us. For the boys, it was a continuation of, are we going to be disciplined? And we learned that lesson going back into February when we played Mount Perrin at Mount Perrin. We had just a disaster of first half. Just we're all out of sorts. We're lucky to only be down 1-0, and just had a real good figure it out sort of session at halftime. Boys responded super well. And from there, our mantra has just been, if we are disciplined, we will have a chance. And that was a very disciplined performance from us, despite all of the other things that was happening that night. And we've been able to just be that team for a while.
When you have a figure it out session, as you call it, at the half, obviously you got to kind of do it on the hop. You can't just sit there and it can't be war and peace. It's got to be Cliff's Notes. So when you have a figure it out session and you're having to do it in Cliff's Notes, what are those conversations like, other than hopefully not shorthand looking like you're trying to bring in a plane over at the airport?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of cones getting thrown out on the ground. There is a lot of really bad handwriting and scribbling on a dry erase pad or dry erase, clipboard and stuff. But the guys are learning a lot about soccer. We have a lot of guys who are now real soccer fans. They're real soccer aficionados. They watch a lot. They understand the game. And so when we talk about making some of these adjustments tactically and that kind of thing, they pick it up really quickly. And so in the 10 minutes that we're throwing 1,000 things at them, excuse me, they were able to pick it up really well and execute it. And we continually make adjustments and we're continually trying to teach them more about the game every single day, as well as instead of it's just this is the way it goes. We tell them all the time. The game evolves from day to day, from team to team, from heck minute to minute sometimes. And if we're learning as we play, then we're going to be better throughout the 80 minutes, and that's really helped us.
All right, so we go a bracket at a time, and since we are a chivalrous lot here on the morning show, let's start with the girls. And for those following along in pen now, it's low right, and it is a matchup against Ben Hudson and Hart County, and they get a piece of history, and you get to be a piece of that history. It's their first ever, if I'm not mistaken, home matches for the boys and the girls in the postseason. So you've got to go from Hogansville to Hartwell, the game brought to us by the letter H, and go up against a team that has and a program that's been on the build the last couple of years. When you were looking at tape on the girls' side, what did you see?
You see a really, really good team that has a good identity. Coach Hudson brought his boys to us last year, as a matter of fact. So we're returning the trip with the girls this year and stuff. And he's in the same position I am, doing double duty with the boys and the girls and stuff. So I'm sure we've all both had some long, late nights, and we'll sleep well, or at least sleep this weekend. I don't know if we'll sleep well, depending on what happens, but at least we'll sleep this weekend. Yep. But they're a really good side. I mean, you look at them and they're like 14-4, and played all kinds of competition and stuff. And they obviously have a big dog who you're talking to today with the Hebron Christian, and they're so good with that program that they got up there. But they stood up to them and went against them really well. So, we're going to have our work cut out for us. It's a long drive. We're trying to make those plans and those arrangements on how to handle that trip the best we can. And, I know they're going to be super excited about, hosting a playoff game, as we are, and we have been and stuff. See what we can get up there and do. It'll be a good competition, as you well know. When we step on the field, we tend to make things at least exciting.
Yeah, and I'm this is one of those that I'm really looking forward to because of all of the different subplots that are attached with both of your programs. AA on the bracket on the whole. For someone who hasn't wandered in to see AA on the girls' side this year, what are they missing out on, and what do they get to jump into now here in the postseason?
Well, you have a team in Pike County who we see all the time. I mean, twice a year, which is 2 times too many as far as I'm concerned. That are just really, really good.
Yeah.
And then you have a group that is in the same region up there, the Sonoraville, the Coahuila Creek, the Union County, who have just gone at it with each other, and they're really good. And I mean, one of them is a 3 seed, and goodness gracious. And then you got the Columbus side as well. You got the Columbus girls are historically good. And so, you think, it's just AA soccer. It's these small schools and especially for girls. And yeah, wag the finger big time because these girls can play. And it is good quality soccer. It's not kick and chase. It's not whatever happens. It's disciplined, organized. It's tactical. You got good coaches on these sides who can really get these girls to understand the game, and you're seeing high-level play.
All right, so that one is tomorrow in Hartwell, correct?
Yes.
What time is kickoff?
6 o'clock.
All right, so then that means you're leaving basically after breakfast, right?
Close to it. I think we're scheduled to get the girls dismissed about 10:30. We do have a charter bus, thanks to the Troup County school systems, to hook us up, which is awesome. So we don't have to be on a big yellow fella going that far. So we'll hit lunch on the way. We'll hit a little break. We'll try to stretch some legs sometimes and get up there, and then hopefully have a good ride home.
All right, yellow fella. I'm gonna have to remember that one because I'm used to calling them yellow hounds.
Oh, okay. I've heard that one.
And so my dear friend Tommy Palmer, who would call them the Yellowhound buses. Yellow fella. I'm going to have to remember that one. All right, so I'm going to put the AA girls to the side and bring up the boys bracket now. And this is where you get your home game, Tattnall County The Battle Creek Warriors get to come over from Reedsville, and I'm guessing that they're going to be leaving Friday about the same time that your girls are leaving to go to Hartwell, probably just after breakfast. And the 24-9, you've got them coming to your place. What's study hall been like getting ready for Friday?
Nerve-wracking because these guys play in just a knockdown, drag-out region. I mean, who knows who is going to win that region because all of those teams are good. And then, they play that region tournament, which ends up almost being not a crapshoot, but just like, wow, you got to play somebody 3 times in a really strong region, and you are going at competition every single night. And then you add to it, Coach Kicklighter, who has got a program down there. He's got a state championship. I think he was in the state semifinals 2 years ago or something like that. So you got a guy who knows what he's doing, who's been where, heck, we haven't been. And so he knows how to prepare his guys for runs in the playoffs. So he's going to have his group ready regardless if they had to go 4 hours or 14 hours. It doesn't matter. He's ready to go. He didn't hesitate when we picked a date and a time. He's like, let's go. He was ready to play on the parking lot on Sunday, I'm sure. And so we've been working hard and trying to keep fresh and do some things that maybe we haven't done in a long time in practice, just so it's not so routine. At this point in practice, you just get almost tired of it. We've had a week between our games and we're like, what do we do? We are who we are. We're not going to change our tactics or our game plans and that kind of stuff very much. So how do you keep everybody involved? How do you keep them motivated rather than, hey, we got a big game and kind of stuff? So we've really done some different things in practice. We've drawn up some or found some new activities and drills for them to do, and the guys have really responded to it. They've had a good time in practice. They've been bought in. They've worked hard. It's been messy sometimes because when it's new, it's not always goes really well. But the effort's been there, and that's all we can ask.
Okay, so what are these new things that you've discovered that you're implementing here? Are we talking like drills, or what are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's just something we haven't done as a small-sided game or a conditioned small-sided game. We're bringing in different goals, we're bringing in different restrictions and stuff. It's all probably variations of stuff that everybody has done somewhere, but we've seen this or seen that or picked this up or said, hey, you know what, we haven't done this in a while. I've gone back and looked at old practice plans and said, hey, remember that drill? And we're like, oh, yeah, we can do that. And so we throw out something new. It's like a new puzzle for them to figure out. And instead of, okay, yeah, we've done this drill 15 times this year, let's just do it again, do it again, do it again. And so there's something at least new for them to do and, get them looking forward to doing something different. I don't know. It might work.
Well, but I mean, at the same time, though, it gives you guys as a coaching staff something to talk about, because if it's like, hey, we're bringing in this new drill, and if they don't get the new drill and they don't get the new activity, then it gives you a different kind of an opportunity to sit there and get them back to 100% to get them to focus. Because if they get lost in the thing that they've done 15 times and it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to do this one again, then you bring in something new and they've got to turn that mental sharpness back on because it's something they haven't seen before.
Right. That was sort of the thought process is we can do the same old thing and harp on getting it perfect. But we know the game's not going to be played perfectly. So let's do something where we can make sure it's high energy, high effort, and have them thinking a little bit more than just, okay, I've done this, let's do it again, again, and again. We've even changed up, like, we always start our practices after we stretch and do a couple things with just some sort of passing pattern and stuff, just try to bring it. And we have 3 or 4 that we've gotten really good at. Well, we threw something at them brand new just the other day, and they were like, oh, hey, this is different. We hadn't done this. And we're like, yeah, that's the idea. and so from there, we knew, okay, they're going to be bought in. They're going to want to do something new and different. And so the past 3 days have been finding something we haven't done before. And here we go, guys, let's try this. And it's been okay. It's been pretty good.
And this is your division of labor question, because you have a girls team heading to Hartwell, and you got a boys team that's staying home. I know that the difference in the schedule dates helps you out in this, where you're not having to be at 2 places at once. And it's like, okay, I can't go to this game. I'm going to go here. You guys take care of this. When it comes to postseason and getting ready, when one's on the road and one's at home, what's division of labor like, and how much time are you spending one to the other? What's your breakdown?
Well, nothing has changed for us as far as practice planning and how the practice runs and stuff. We've talked about it before. We run basically an overlapping practice So this week the girls have been early. They come in at 3:40. They go till about 5:15, 5:30-ish. The boys come in at 4:30 with Hunter, my lead boys assistant, and he takes them through their warm-ups and passing and stuff like that. And then when I wrap up with the girls, I go over with the boys and finish up with them. So that is what we do weekly. We flip-flop who goes early, but that's how we've run things, and it's gone really well. Again, the only reason it's gone really well is because I have the best assistants ever. I got 3 different coaches, actually 4 different coaches, excuse me, who are able to come in. I got 2 with the girls, 1 full time with the boys, and my goalkeeper coach who goes both directions and stuff. And so they have been around the program for a good minute. I have 2 of them who are former coaches or former players of mine. One who is a former parent who had 2 girls go through the program. So they're, indoctrinated into the Callaway Kool-Aid, for the lack of a better term. And so they know what we're all about. And so I could literally just send them on their way and say, here, this is what we're doing. They know what we're talking about as far as like when we write up a practice plan or this and that, bam, there it is. And it's all good from there. So that, so that works really well for us.
Yes.
And so that division of labor is not a worrisome thing for us. And then when I travel on Thursday, our boys are, again, Hunter will just take over the boys and run the last bit of practice for us, getting us ready. And then they're hopefully going to be able to, I think they're going to plan on meeting in one of the classrooms and watching the girls game on the NFHS network. So that'll be cool.
There you go. Yeah. The Callaway, I guess, is probably the best way to
I like that.
Look, the national team has the US way. You got to have the Callaway.
We'll take it.
So then when you have that Venn diagram there at practice, have you ever thought of crossing the streams and having some integrated practice with the boys and the girls in that in-between time, and to sit there and it's like, okay, I want to see how you kind of go up against each other. I mean, don't hurt each other and don't, do anything.
Right.
Have you ever had that idea of the Venn diagram when they cross over? And
we've done it a few times. It's hard because the boys want to go show off because they're just bigger, stronger, faster. And of course they're boys. So that's what they do. The girls kind of roll their eyes because the boys are there trying to do stuff. And so it really hasn't worked terribly well. We've run our JV guys against our girls, which have been a good matchup and that kind of stuff. But no, not too terribly much. We hadn't done it a whole lot.
Okay. Once again, recapping, boys heading to Hartwell. When is that? Tomorrow?
Girls are heading to Hartwell tomorrow at 6.
Yeah. Okay. So
boys host Tatnall Friday at 7.
There you go. Okay. So that's the rundown. That's your AA brackets as you're filling them out in pen. And I can't thank you enough because I know sometimes we have the noon show, but at the same time, if this is better during this time of year when you're teaching and practicing and all this kind of stuff, I'm glad we could do this and have you hop on the morning show and be a part of the madness here.
Hey, I am always happy to be here and part of the program. I thank you so much for doing what you do for Georgia high school soccer and heck, soccer across the Southeast. It's so awesome to see it and have it just be such a big part of our culture down here. So it's a big part to you. So thanks for having us.
Be good and just be safe, and we'll catch up on the flip side, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Thanks, John.
There goes Mike Petite, and the head coach and the head coach at Callaway and Callaway. Boys and girls AA, they are getting ready for the girls heading to Hartwell, and they're going to go up that way. And then the boys are hanging at home in the 24-9 matchup as Tatnall County comes to visit. I'm anticipating the over. Maybe 2.5, 3.5, something like that. But no, it's going to be fun. Opening round of the playoffs started yesterday at noon. We'll go over it in depth with Daniel Cornejo, and we're going to find out what life is like for him in Vienna at Dooley County. And then we're going to catch up with our friend Chad Griffin at Hebron Christian. And then we'll go over the brackets as they happened yesterday. Not everything happened yesterday. You have some games, and you get to navigate this if something's better with travel or something like that. And you can have merges like we're going to have on tomorrow with Cambridge and Ola. So we're going to do the boys and the girls back-to-back. They came up with a common date, and so it's going to be a back-to-back doubleheader. We're going to be there in Henry County, our first time to catch up with the Mustangs, and it's going to be at 6 and 8. It'll be a combination of Jason, Drew, and myself, and we'll be down there at Ola for that doubleheader with Cambridge, and we will have that one for you across the network. So Noon, when there is playoff stuff going on, we're going to have red clay. Like I said, we're not going to go the full hour, mind you, because we're doing it every day during the playoffs. But we're going to try and catch up with as many coaches as we can. And in the case of Mike, it was like, okay, what's better? And he's like, well, can I do like early morning? And I said, yeah, if you want to bat leadoff, you can bat leadoff. That's perfectly fine. So we might have during the playoffs here in the state of Georgia, we might have some crossover where we'll have some high school coaches drifting in if they can't make red clay. And so that's your bolo. So you got to be on the lookout for high school coaches and activities as part of the morning show during the postseason here, because we're doing red clay every day and you might not be able to catch up with coaches. So that's your warning. That's your program director's warning. It's not quite the Surgeon General, but it is a program director's warning that you will have crossover from a bunch of different strata. Like I said, today it is going to be literally, it is NWSL coming up here in a second with Margaret Fleming from Front Office Sports with the announcement that happened yesterday in Columbus. So we're going from high school to NWSL to UPSL to Major League Soccer and whatever else happened yesterday. Leicester got relegated again. Chelsea lost for the fifth time, goalless for the fifth time in a row. First time that's happened since 1912. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about today, but that's what Wall Pass Wednesday is for. And thanks for hanging out with us as you always do. Morning, Ricky. Morning, D. Graham. Morning, Abby. Morning, David. And so that is that's your rundown for today. The chaos of a Wall Pass Wednesday. That's what we're here for. So headlines, we mentioned Leicester getting relegated for the second time, 10 years after they win the Premier League. The 5,000 to 1 shot, it's going to be a long slog. And if you follow folks like Kieran Maguire, and if you follow our friend Paul Quinn over at the ESK, it's going to be rough because they front-loaded all of their funding from Premier League sources and things like that, where it was, let's see, hang on. So Leicester, in theory, and this is from Kieran. So Leicester, in theory, have 35 million pounds of parachute payments next year. They cashed those in back in January by borrowing from a bank, securing against the future money in the Premier League. This means that they're only going to get the $2 million that you get in broadcast money from the EFL. So they kind of leveraged their future secured assets is the term. Central funds due or owing to that might be due or owing to purchased or otherwise acquired or received in respect of July 27 for the period thereafter, including June of 28, or the relegation payment is relevant. And so they asked for it up front at Company's House back January 12th of 26 this year. So Leicester asked for their TV funds up front and their parachute payments up front just so they could function. And so now all they're going to get is the $2 million for being a part of the EFL this year. They're going down to League One, and they have a couple of players that they might be able to sell for tidy profits. But there are folks in the Leicester circle that are thinking they might be heading down to League Two. And it might be a long road back for Leicester City. Opening kickoff brought to us by Black Pitch Coffee, blackpitchcoffee.com. Start your day with the most important stories in the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy-bodied, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Speaking of financials, Chelsea, the women's team has confirmed that they're going to move all of their fixtures to Stamford Bridge for 26-27. Consultation with the Chelsea women's players, fan advisory board, and fan groups. And it's part of their never done brand identity, ambition on and off the field, according to our buddy Ben Jacobs. They're going to continue to own Kings Meadow that they picked up from one of my clubs, AFC Wimbledon. And it's going to be used for academy matches. So they're going to be moving from Kings Meadow to Stamford Bridge. Frankly, it's about blanking time. So, that's good to know. Now, we get another debut. We have a debut. And I warned Margaret. I said this. I said, okay, so if you're coming in the morning show, make sure that you have your caffeinated beverage with you. That is perfectly fine. So any guest that has, that comes in the morning show, especially with the busy day that she had yesterday at Front Office Sports, I said, look, here's what we do. It's a morning show. We have fun. We try to be informative. You can have your caffeinated beverage with you. Look, we have folks that have their animals with them that invade screens. But Margaret is not in a position where she can have animals invade, I don't think. You don't have animals ready to invade, Margaret, do you?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay, just checking. Because like I said, there have been times where we have, guests that are normally in their home studios and things like that, and you'll see a cat wandering across the screen and stomping on a keyboard, that kind of a thing. So it's perfectly fine, perfectly legal here at the morning show. And so I'm glad that we were able to get you on short notice about what's going on in the NWSL. It's coming fast and furious these days with the franchises now.
No, seriously. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So Columbus, Ohio. And I keep having to remind folks here where we're based. It's like, no, not the Western Frontier, not Columbus, GA, while they have a great stuff going on in the Western Frontier. It is Columbus, Ohio, great soccer market. And this seems to have come together pretty quickly because you saw in their social media campaigns, it's like, hashtag NWSL to, CLB or whatever, CBUS. And all of a sudden it goes from this, hey, sign this petition campaign to the vote by the city council to the announcement yesterday. It seems like that this just came on the hop here.
It moved pretty quickly for sure. For people who are unfamiliar, there was a vote on Monday and another vote on Tuesday. There was the city council and then the county talking about giving some public funding toward an NWSL team. And locally, it was pretty controversial because there was no NWSL team. And on top of that, it's giving a public park to a private soccer club, a public park that there had been, years-long plans to renovate and redevelop in an underserved community that, now is being promised a new park and, see how all that goes. But all to say, it was pretty contentious and there was no team. And then, next day comes the announcement. 18th franchise for Columbus, Ohio. So kind of a whirlwind week there so far for Columbus, but they are up next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that for those that kind of keep an eye on our studio space, if I was to shift to my left, camera right, you'll notice the team 17 right here with that one. So 17 turns into 18. And the crazy thing is when you look at Denver, Boston, Atlanta, Columbus, it's like the rights fee is just like, all right, so we're going to close our eyes and, spin the dial and it's going to be just like The Price is Right. And it's going to be the, cliffhanger dude that goes up the hill and it's like, stop. And you throw the dart and it's like 53 and then you stop, you keep it going again. 110, 150. What is this with the increase of the franchise fees in such short order? Is that confidence or where do you think that comes from?
I have a couple thoughts here. I think it's confidence. I think people want a team. I think there's plenty of cities that would like to have an NWSL team right now. Columbus, already has a soccer stadium that they can go in. There were willing owners who clearly have the financial capital to, invest into a team. And so I think that it's kind of, you don't want to grow too fast, you don't want to grow too fast, but I think when it comes to Columbus specifically, it makes a lot of sense for the league to want to go there. They're already going there this year for a Challenge Cup, and that's been such a big soccer market for, ever. And yeah, when it comes to the rising fees, I think it kind of speaks to the time. It speaks to the demand for like people who want to own a club, that they, the NWSL is raising the price and they're saying yes. It's also, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt because it's like these are, major NFL owners and, people who have multiple sports teams and like, $205 million is huge and amazing and record breaking. And at the same time, like, they're, have billions. So it's the growth is happening, and at the same time, it's like go to people who are more able and willing to put that forward. My other thought here though is like right on NWSL. I think about to compare to the WNBA when you think about kind of these growing leagues at this time with these rising expansion fees. And we saw last year the WNBA announced they've also had new expansion teams and the fees going up, and they announced 3 teams for 28, 29, 2030 in 3 different cities and kept it at that flat rate. And they'd been building before that, it went up. Those were more than what Golden State was, than what Toronto was, and what Portland was. But still, they planned really far in advance at a fee for now. And there's a whole argument of that, of like, should they have waited and it would have been higher? They want the money sooner, or are they capitalizing on the success now? Would it go down? You just don't know. And I think seeing how it's been rising, I give credit to the NWSL for I don't know where the bid was at. It might not have been together, but like they could have waited or they could have done Columbus then, when they did Atlanta at the same time, taking less money, but they kind of waited for the 2 and kind of got more money out of Columbus than Atlanta by like waiting and going. So I think it's the rising expansion fees are, a great thing that puts more money into the league, into the system, pays, players more at the end of the day, gets better facilities, all the things. So I think it's a great thing for the league to have the rising expansion, but I give them credit for kind of assessing them individually and letting those go up, and not, choosing now for, to criticize the W 5 years down the line.
Yeah. And it's like the rate of return. It's like, yeah, we're going to wait a couple months. So Atlanta comes in at X price. And then it's like, yeah, we're going to wait. We'll wait a couple of months. And all of a sudden, the Haslams and Mr. Edwards come in. They sit there. It's like, man, the rate of return just from there to there.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's 40 million more. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great play. It's like you wait a couple of months. Yeah, 40 million more. That's a good rate.
Yeah.
So then let me ask you, and you may not know this. What is the distribution? Is it like in other leagues where the expansion fee comes in and it's chopped up with all of the current members and the league, or does it go straight to the league and then they redistribute that way? Where does the expansion fee? What's the breakdown?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how they're exactly doing it these days, with all this money coming in. If there's like a different, if they handle, 53 million differently than 205, or if it's the exact same. But the NWSL is a single owned, like single entity. So the teams all kind of report to the league. It is these like franchises and these expansion teams, and they all have their own ownership. But at the end of the day, like every team is owned by the league. So that goes to the league, and the league can kind of, I would assume that it's kind of, it goes to the league, and then the league can kind of figure out what it wants to do with it. I would, kind of assume that they're gonna, follow the model of giving it to the spreading the wealth, giving it around. But to be honest, I'm not really quite sure how they're.
Here's a 20 for you and a 20 for you, and a 20 for you. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't know if you knew if there was a percentage breakdown, if it was all even partners. Since it is single entity, the league sits there and it's like, no, we'll take that, and then we'll figure out you get a 20 and you get a 20. So right now, and they're going to play at Scott's Miracle Grow. We just call it the Death Star. I mean, that's what they called it. So fine, we're going to call it the Death Star. So they're going to play in that venue. I'm hoping that they really have their horticulturalists and all of their folks to maintain that turf and make sure that all of that traffic is going to won't kill the grass or anything. You're at 18 right now with the NWSL. Your gut, and like I said, this is just you thinking out into the ether. Where do you think the ceiling is / should be for the NWSL? Because, I mean, like I said, they've gained 4 franchises, whether actually playing or coming up in future years, in short order. They're at 18. I know Philadelphia is kind of mad that that they'd like to be a part of this process. Where do you see the ceiling for the league when it comes to their future? Are they just going to cap it at X point, or are they just going to sit there and let it ride, do you think?
What I think is, I don't think at this point that they have announced more expansion desires in the near term, and I think despite the kind of growth that we've seen from them recently in that department, I predict what I I don't know if hope is the right word, but what I would kind of suggest maybe. I think it's good to kind of tamper down a little bit. They talk a lot about the league talks a lot about being wanting to get the top talent, wanting to get the best, the best in the world. And I mean, we see it talk about the WNBA again. I mean, we see, what they're able to do with, their new CBA and paying players and kind of the money in the system. And I think that sometimes if you just grow and expand, I think there's a lot in the system that they can currently work around that's being worked on for sure. But I think there's kind of a lot when it comes to, I don't know, player experience, other ways to invest in it, other than getting a new team, a new market. I think it's been great in Denver and Boston. I think it's going to be amazing in Atlanta. I think it's going to be great in Columbus as well. But at the same time, I think kind of going with what they have, I think 18 is a lot. And I think I would hope that this league has a very long life, and I think that kind of stretching it out really quickly and not taking care of what's already here, the players that are here, what they want. I think there's plenty to work on in a growing league already. So I would say the excitement of expansion will be good, and then kind of let it ride for a while, see what new rivalries form, see what new dynasties form, and then kind of maybe reassess a few years after that. But who knows? We could be here, when Atlanta starts in 2028, and there's 6 new cities, because they're not going to have a problem of. I mean, I don't think that there's ever going to be a problem for them of like cities don't want a team at this point. Women's sports are just here, and people want them. So the Philadelphias, the Nashvilles, the Austins, these places that are huge soccer markets, and even places that MLS hasn't established a footprint either, that they could expand into more. You saw them strike first with San Diego. There's plenty of markets that we could sit here and spitball that I'm sure would put up 205 or more. So it's only a matter of time, but I think probably slowing down a little bit might be for the best.
Yeah, I'm thinking Margaret Fleming from Front Office Sports hanging out with us, discussing NWSL 2 C-Bus now that it is officially official. I mean, yeah, for me, I see all of this money coming in, and it's like, well, if you could address your salary cap issues and maybe not just, that to me is just an entirely different thing. It's like, yeah, I know that the NWSL is trying to be hip. I get it. But if you would work on your salary cap problems and focus on that maybe for a couple of years, and then get that, instead of the hip rule and everything. Sorry, I got on my soapbox for 35 seconds.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point. I mean, if they're going to keep adding owners, there's one side of the coin that's like, we have, or one side of the argument that's like, we have these new owners coming in who understand the expectation and are willing to go up in the salary cap. But at the same time, that doesn't erase the owners who are already there, who, you got to either convince to get on board or work with or whatever. I think, salary cap and facilities and, even just like professionalism, like investing in the health and performance. Like there's all these things that like players talk about. None of this is breaking news. We know about these things, and the league knows about these things, and the league, I think, wants to also invest in those areas. The league wants to grow the league and pay the players more. It's just a matter of like how to do that and run the business right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think all those areas are worth looking into, in addition to expansion. But I think expansion's been good and steady, and now maybe turning and focusing on.
Yeah, you got 4 new Christmas presents that you've opened up here, and it's like shiny bikes and computers and things like that. Maybe just I don't know. Maybe if you just kind of focused on the CD player and the laptop that you got a couple of years ago, and make sure that they're running at 100%. That would be for me, like I said. But the thing is, I think what this does when you have all of this new money coming in, and I guess it's capital N, capital M, new money, with expansion fees and the Haslams and Arthur Blank, and what you're seeing out of Boston and what you're seeing out of Denver with the celebs that are attached and private equity going to Bay. I think what this also does is it probably reminds the franchises, look, you don't have to break the bank if you want to do things your way. Because, I mean, if you want to build through an academy structure, like we see in Major League Soccer with some franchises. You build through an academy structure. You're successful that way. You're not blowing $9 gazillion a year, bringing in top talent from around the planet just to kind of be there. I think this gives the NWSL that opportunity to sit there and have each franchise figure out their own way. If they want to spend gazillion dollars, cool. If you want to build internally, fine. I think that when you get to right now at 18 franchises, you're like, okay, we'll figure out, okay, who wants to do it one way, who wants to do it another. I think that this is just another example of that.
I think the new teams that are coming in also raise the bar. I mean, I think Atlanta is going to raise the bar in a lot of ways, both for venue, but also, facility. You see tons of existing teams making new facilities. You see, the new teams coming in, building new venues, building new facilities. And just kind of, I think that raises the professionalism, the level across the league. You don't want to be the team that is left behind. It puts good pressure on. And like you said, I mean, every team, every market's going to have its own individual, advantages and disadvantages. One might have a facility, one might have the, like you said, the youth structure going. There's all different ways to kind of handle it and ways to spend and invest in the team. But yeah, I think it's only a good thing to put in these owners who, like, I think the cool thing too about, not to toot these people's horns that probably don't need it, but like it's cool to have these owners, in these 2028 owners coming in Atlanta and Columbus, who are these major NFL owners, these billionaires. They have plenty of money. That's got a lot of money for a league that wants it. But it's also like they're huge soccer people.
Mm-hmm.
They're huge soccer people. It's not just like they're here because it's cool to get in on women's soccer right now or something. They've clearly demonstrated a big interest in soccer, investment in soccer in each of their markets. And so I think it's kind of a unique pairing. To go back to the W again, you see a lot of times they like to pair with the NBA owners that they know have the capital to invest in the league. And I feel like that's kind of similar here to what the NWSL is doing, is like they're choosing these big time sports owners, with this huge soccer focus and investment history, and saying like, we know that our players will be in good hands here. So I think that's kind of an interesting, trend from them. So
there is that. Yes, they view it as an investment, as a part of their portfolio, but at the same time, they get it. They understand the larger picture about growing the game.
Yeah, it's like these are people who are both smart in business and passionate about soccer, which I feel like, sometimes with sports owners, you don't always get both. It's a little mixed, or a lot of passions there, but the money side does not come through, or whatever it is. So I'm sure they will have plenty of problems in their own rights, but just from on paper, it all seems to be trending in the right direction.
Yeah. Another couple of moments with you before. Do we need to get a note to your bosses that you were kind of busy this morning? Yeah. Do you need like a please excuse Margaret from class kind of thing?
They know where I am. They know where I am.
Okay.
I'm hanging out as long as you want me to hang out.
Okay. Yeah. So you've got Kansas City that's built their own barn, and I think that's also another part of the process. One of the things that, and this is, like I said, this is just another pet peeve of mine, that when you have teams building facilities or going into venues, I think they're shortchanging themselves with their capacities. Boston, to me, with the whole White Stadium project and everything, I'm concerned that they're selling themselves too short. And I know that you want to maybe create artificial supply and demand with tickets and all that kind of stuff. But I've always thought if you're coming into Major League Soccer, you got to have a capacity of 30,000, because I think you're selling your fans short. And I think you're selling the game short, because you could do other things in that venue and continue to grow the game. What Kansas City's doing is fantastic. I just think the venue is too small. I hope that they can expand it without taking it into the river and having to do like pontoons and things in that one end zone. That's just really, honestly, for me, it's great that you're bringing folks in. I want the venues to be a true representation of the demand and the appreciation for the sport. Does that make sense?
I think that's super fair. I mean, I think Denver too, I might be totally wrong on this, but I think I remember that they're also, what they're building is smaller than, obviously it's smaller than what they filled at their home opener, but it's less demand. It's fewer seats than the demand that they've been seeing. Same with White Stadium. I mean, you kind of see two ends of the spectrum. In Atlanta, there's going to be, empty seats, which is okay, for big matches and for home openers and things like that. I'm sure that they can fill it up, and they might totally prove me wrong, and I hope that they do. I really hope that they do. But like, that's okay. I don't think anyone's expecting them to fill 70,000 seats for every single match. But they're gonna have empty seats, and on the other side, there's gonna be places that are already too small. Kansas City, it's tough because it's so cool to see these owners building facilities or stadiums, venues, to see like the players getting to play in a stadium that's for them, to get to see the sport have that and that level of investment. It's great to see it happening, and at the same time it is tough because it's like that they could fill 10,000 more seats, 20,000 more seats, 30,000 more seats, whatever it is. So yeah, it is tough. It's tough to see, especially for Boston, Denver, some of these that could probably fill a little bit more, but at the same time, I think that might just be something over the years that the owners kind of sense out demand and deal with. Maybe they turn into some kind of crazy tailgating situation instead. You never know what kind of solutions they might come up with, but yeah, it's kind of a tough situation. Then again, I mean, I feel like I keep talking about basketball here, but I just, I'm a big basketball fan also. You see the Golden State Valkyries, that's the new expansion team in the WNBA this last season. They filled out the Chase Center where the Warriors play, 18,000, I think 64 is the capacity, every single game. And there's teams in the W that have, 4,000 seats. And, there's just this disparity in women's sports more generally. Of the venue sizes, and I think eventually that might level out a little bit, but for now I think there's going to be this weird in between where some markets there are not enough seats, and other markets there are open seats, and yeah, maybe people travel a little more. I don't really know the right answer there, but yeah, it is unfortunate that there's going to be not enough seats for all the fans. At the same time, I think that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I think the way that it's probably going to work in Atlanta is for special events, special games. They're going to open up the full bowl, and they're going to try to smack the Denver record, right in the teeth. And I think that they probably will for that first match. But then what they do, it's the configuration that they have for Atlanta United, where big games, they open up the entire stadium. Other games, they'll have just the lower bowl, the 100s and the 200s, and that's 41,000. So I would imagine that's going to be the layout, is the season tickets for Atlanta 2028, they're going to be in that 41,000 configuration. And then for special events, they'll open it up like they always do for like the 75, 78, 80,000. I think that'll be the way of the world for Atlanta. I was looking up while we were talking about Denver. They go Mile High, and then they go to Dixon and Commerce City. Then Centennial, which is where they're going to supposedly in the summer, meant to seat 12, and it's going to serve as the team's home until at least 2028, when the team's owners hope, and this is from Denver, right? Team's owners hope to finish construction on a larger stadium in Denver's Baker neighborhood, and so they're looking at 2028 for stadium number 4 that they will have been in by the time that they will have gotten things rolling.
And the Centennial isn't open yet. They're building it now. That's going to be at their practice facility. Yeah, so it's
modular, probably one of those modular things, and you sit there and you look at it and go, okay, cool, I understand where you're going with this. So you are going to be incredibly busy. I don't know if you've heard about this World Cup thing that's happening. Front office, what's your coverage? What are you telling them that you need to do come 55 days from now? How busy are you going to be?
Goodness. I mean, very.
Premises, oh goodness, and backs up.
No, I mean, I'm super stoked. It's going to be awesome. I mean, that's what I signed up for. That's why I wanted to, switch over. I've only been doing soccer for a couple months now because I wanted to get, going before the tournament. And it's been crazy, but it's been awesome. And I'm really happy to be here. The summer's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. I'm going to be bouncing all over the place. I'm based in New York, and we have a lot of matches in New Jersey. It might, cost a little bit to get out to the stadium.
Get an Uber or just rent a car. Rent a car and pay for parking.
Yeah, the options are tough. We'll see if I can get one of those $150 train tickets. But
I don't want to know what the Hampton Inn, a couple exits down from the Meadowlands, is going to be charging for their nightly rate. That's why.
Probably a lot. So, all to say, I'll get to go to matches here, and I'm super pumped about that. Gonna try to hit up some around the country as well. Trying to see exactly where at this point, but hoping to catch US in some places, hoping to catch Argentina, hoping to get to see some fan fests in different cities. I am super excited to see what the different fan fests look like. I think every city has had a different story there. Some places are really scaling back, some places are really going for it, some places are spreading it out among 10 different cities, and some places are saying we're going to have just one in the middle the whole time. And so I'm excited to see kind of what that looks like in every, I don't think I'll get to every city, and
oh, come on.
I sleep that I don't.
I can't wait to see your end of World Cup invoice, your travel report.
Oh gosh.
Your reimbursement to FOS's front office when you're done with the thing. It's like, okay, so how many pages is that PDF? And it's like that thick, Like, wait, what is this? Where was this? Where was this at 3 o'clock in the morning in insert market here?
Hopefully not too much 3 o'clock in the morning, but I appreciate that they're letting me do this, and excited and supporting me to do it. It's definitely not, the hotel prices and the flights, and a lot of these host cities are really nasty. So I appreciate them supporting me doing the World Cup. It's gonna be fun.
So then what I would like to do is when you figure out your itinerary, we'd like to have you in as a part of our normal World Cup coverage and discussing what you're seeing, whether it's games and all this kind of stuff. If you're marooned there in the tri-state and it's like, yeah, I only got to go to the Meadowlands for the semifinal. And it's like, oh, darn, we'll have to talk to you about that. Is it okay if we kind of bookmark you and sit there and it's like, yeah, we'd like to have you as a World Cup regular, kind of working your way through things if we're not like waking you up at a really obscene hour or something?
Sure, I'd love to. Yeah, that sounds awesome. It's gonna be fun wherever I'm at in the country. Yeah, I'm happy to jump in and help out. I would really like to make it to Atlanta. I'm hoping to get to come for the semifinal. That would be a big goal of mine. So yeah, that's up there. Hopefully.
Yeah, we're going to be flying around all over the place, at least here in Atlanta. Since we're anchored here, we've got a lot of live remotes and things like that. The morning show is going to be going on. We're going to have a nighttime show, the daily show that's attached to Jason on his 92.9 over on FM. That's daily. That's coming up daily to do a World Cup thing. Obviously, us in the morning show, so we'll all be incoherent and asking all of our guests to come in and talk about things as well. But yeah, when you know what your rundown is, let us know, and we'd like to sit there and we'd like to reserve you here, and here to talk about everything that's going on. The Twitch pitch has welcomed you with open arms. I believe you have been, since you've been added to the stacks. That's what we call our live chat, the Twitch pitch. And so they're like, hey, don't be a stranger, welcome aboard, all those kinds of things. Don't know what you've gotten yourself into probably, but nevertheless. So go and get your caffeine, and thanks for dropping by, as now you always will. And for those that may follow on the Twitters and on the social medias, it is at FOS for Front Office Sports, and then it is MG Fleming 12. Was that the number that you wore?
That's my birthday.
Okay. 1, 2, or 12?
12, actually.
Oh, wow.
I consider that a pretty good, I don't know. There's some birthdays that are just, I think a lot of people feel that way about their birthday, but I feel like
numerologists are sitting there and they're going, ooh, so it's the same thing. But as always, glad that we got you to rope in here to the morning show. And like I said, don't be a stranger. Honestly, if there's anything that you ever want to vent your spleen about, you know how to get in touch with me. And it's like, Nelson, I got to come in here. I got to talk about something. And it's like, okay, fine. It is one gigantic morning party. And like I said, this is me and caffeine right now. So that's kind of how things work. go get your brunch and go hide in a cubicle and tell them that, yeah, man, they kept me for like an hour. I don't know what happened. So once again, thanks for dropping by, and we'll catch up with you soon, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Margaret Fleming, Front Office Sports, and I think she's probably just going to go running off into the sunset now. She's like, I cannot believe, what have I just done? You know, it's like the scene at the end of the chase scene in the movie where you just see the star just kind of running off into the sunset, and it's just like, no, one of those. So Margaret Fleming, we now add her to the stacks. Jason's had her on his program on Atlanta Soccer Tonight. And so now we add Margaret to the stacks as well because of her coverage of soccer at Front Office and her NWSL coverage. And so it made too much sense to bring her in to be a part of things here on the morning show. So 2 guests down, 1 hour down. Miguel Gallardo joining us, set to join us at the bottom of the hour. Hopefully he'll be in his palatial studio. And we'll talk about Major League Soccer. We got to get into that. We got to get into all of your matchups, all your juice boxes, all the refs, all the news, all the things. And also what we'll get into is what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, all the gossip, the rumor, and the innuendo, waiting for Miguel coming up at the bottom of the hour. And then we'll get you to 11:05-ish. Then we'll come back at noon. We'll get into high school with Red Clay Wednesday. Once again, it is Daniel Cornejo from Dooley County and our friend Chad Griffin from Hebron Christian. And then we'll let you know what happened yesterday. A lot of upsets in AAA, especially on the girls' side. One bracket got completely blown to shreds, and it opened it up for the one highly ranked team that's left in that quadrant. So we'll go over what happened yesterday, set the table up for what's going on today, and we'll break it all down for you at noon on Red Clay Wednesday. And then once again tonight, it is 6:30 start. Pre-game, 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app. It's Abe and Maddie for Five Stripes Countdown. Then it is Mike and Jason, 7:40 kick. And then it is full-time report with me and Abe after the match. Once again, 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app. I think it's 92.9 The Game. I don't think it's anything different. I think it's 92.9. I think they're back on 92.9 tonight. I don't think there's no 94.1 that I can think of tonight. Jeff Kasufa, quick note. NWSL and the PA have joined Project ACL alongside the WSL in England to deepen the study around the prevalence of ACL injuries in women's soccer. FIFPro is going to guide the study. So now the NWSL PA is joining the WSL to go along with Project ACL. So that's good stuff to hear there. All right, here's what we're going to do. And we also got to get into the UPSL before we go to, because it is a UPSL Wednesday. All right. Let's get into Major League Soccer, get you into the juice boxes and your previews and everything, getting you ready for tonight, once again, across the board. So let's get into the matchups themselves, and we'll go juice boxes, and then we'll go folks in the middle and what your crews are and things like that. And I know, obviously, since it is a midweek, that it is traditionally difficult sometimes for folks to make it for a midweek kind of a thing. So here's your rundown for tonight and what it's going to look like. You got a lot of action at 7:40. The Atlanta matchup is on FOX, and so that means it's a 7:55 kick. So it's going to be an even later evening than anticipated for Atlanta and New England. Purple team in Charlotte, and we'll talk to Miguel Gallardo about this one. It is a purple team at a plus 175. Charlotte's a plus 129, and your draw is a plus 300. Crew and LAG. Crew is favored at home on the minus side at a minus 133. LAG on the road a plus 350. Draw is a plus 290. Red Bulls at home in Harrison, favored at a minus 118, hosting DC United. DC United north of plus 300. They're like a plus 310. Draw is a plus 280. And this is another common number too. So it's like our juice boxes, the way that it works, we got an odds portal, because it is a composite of anywhere from 2 to 12 or 14 different juice box purveyors. They put them on a pile, come out with an average, and that's the number. I think a lot of them just get into a conspiracy cahoots with each other because the numbers are always the same, especially in the draw function. So you get a lot of numbers that are the same, and then the win on both sides is what gets changed. It is NYC and FC Cincinnati, and I got to figure out where this one is. I got to see if this one's in the Bronx or if this one is on Neptune or, Pratt and Whitney in suburban Connecticut or wherever it is. So for our friend Glenn Crooks, it's at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. So it's the 106 by 68 for FC Cincinnati and NYC. Once again, minus 111 for NYC. Draw and FC Cincinnati are a plus 280. See, I just think they just threw spaghetti against the wall, and they're just like, yeah. So that's what I think that one is. 740, Toronto hosting Philadelphia. Toronto favored at only a plus 163. So it's a big plus side favorite for Toronto. Philadelphia is a plus 175, and your draw is a plus 240. You're going to hear that number a lot because you heard plus 280 a lot, and it's either plus 280 or plus 240 in the composite. So I just think that they just woke up and gave it a number. 840, Atlanta and the Revs. Atlanta favored at a plus 114. The Revs on the road favored, and the draw, both a plus 240. So Atlanta a substantive favorite at home tonight against the Revs. 840, FC Dallas hosting Minnesota United at a plus 104. The draw is a plus 270. Minnesota United is a plus 240. Also at 840, Houston hosting San Diego at Hell in a Shell at a minus 110. Draw is a plus 309. In San Diego, that is a walking red card right now. They are at a plus 250. 940, RSL and Messi and Friends. RSL is a plus 110. Messi and Friends are a plus 200. Draw is a plus 300. No word on the stars and minutes and starting and things like that. 1040, San Jose hosting Austin at PayPal Park at a minus 222. Draw is a plus 380. Draw and Austin is a plus 550. And Colorado is the same. Colorado is a plus 550. Favorite, 1040. Draws a plus 409. LAFC is a minus 217. But yeah, literally you had in the juice boxes, in the composite, you had two teams at one number. You had two teams at another number to win. And then obviously the win, the underdog. The underdog number, you had two of them at one number. You had two more at another number. The favorite to win, that number is all over the place. That's fine in a composite. But you had literally four teams that had two of the same numbers. Then the draw option you actually had, once again, two teams at one number, two teams at the same number. So you had two pair in the draw option, and you had two pair in the underdog option. They had the same number. Literally, you're looking at like multiple juice box purveyors, and they're just like, yeah. And this is, let's see. So how many different juice box purveyors were here? You got a couple. And that meant, yeah, so it might be why. All right. So not as many as we're used to seeing when it comes to other things. But anyway, it's just, I was looking at the spaghetti on the wall, and I'm like, something ain't right here. And I think they just wake up and say, that looks like a 240. They throw it up there. All right. So those are your numbers for tonight. Let's get you into who is doing what where, and we will track down the characteristics as best as we have them from the evidence presented as to what to look for when it comes to these particular assignments and the characteristics of the folks in the middle therein. All right, so match day 9, which is tonight, Crew and Galaxy. Rosendo Mendoza is the man in the middle. Walt Heatherly is your AR. Diego Blas is your AR2. Chris Penso is your 4th. Sean Tahini and Craig Lowry are upstairs. Sergi Boyko is in the Bronx with Leias Arfa, Brian Dunn, Andrew Fisher, Lucas Zapala, and Matthew Rodman are upstairs. I think what you're seeing here, just as an early trend, is that you have the folks who are the 4ths are probably going to be in the middle on the weekend, and the folks who are in the middle are going to be 4ths on the weekend. Red Bull and DC United, Marcus de Oliveira is the man in the middle. Adam Winkowski, Brian Marshall are your ARs. Tori Penso is your 4th. Edvin Jurasevich and Fabio Tovar are upstairs. Orlando and Charlotte, Philip Dujic is the man in the middle. Corey Rockwell and Justin Howard are your ARs. Lorenzo Hernandez is your 4th. JC Rivero and Joshua Patlak are upstairs. Toronto and Philly, Fotis Bazakas, the man in the middle. Chris Wadham, Nick Balser, your ARs. Fabrizio Stasola. Paisan is your 4th. Your Ismair Pekmich and Tom Felice are upstairs. Ricardo Montero is in the middle in Atlanta. Megan Mullen, Red Hamill, your ARs. Sergei Demyanchuk, someone you do not want to mess with if you know his backstory, is your 4th. Greg Dopka and Jonathan Johnson are upstairs. We will cycle back to Ricardo Montero and find out his characteristics. FC Dallas, Minnesota United. Alan Chapman, man in the middle. Corey Richardson, Adam Garner, your ARs. John Freeman is your fourth, no relation. Katja Koroleva and Mike Kampminer are upstairs. Houston and San Diego. Rubiel Vasquez in the middle. Chris Elliott and Jose de Silva, your ARs. Colin Radosov is your fourth. David Barry and Tom Supple are upstairs. RSL and Messi and friends. Pierre-Luc Lozier is the man in the middle for that one. Jeremy Hansen, Callie Smith, your ARs. Alexis de Silva is your fourth. Eunice Morakchi and Melissa Beck are upstairs. LAFC in Colorado, Victor Rivas in the middle. Eric Weisbrod, Kevin Locke, your ARs. Remy Tucson is your fourth. JC Rivero and Tom Felice are upstairs, so you do have some day-night double headers with VAR, and AVAR. San Jose and Austin, Timothy Ford is in the middle. Stefan Tanaka-Freund and Ryan Graves are your ARs. Elahio Adegin is your fourth. And Greg Dopka and Craig Lowry are upstairs. Now, Ricardo Montero. Let's get into, let's see. So let's get into the ref stats. So MLS ref stats. So Ricardo Montero is the man in the middle. I think we've had Ricardo Montero already this year. All right. So MLS referee statistics. We always go to who scored for this, and who scored always sends us to the year 2023, and we really don't care about that. So I have to dial it up a little differently. So, all right, ref stats 2026, as we know them when they load. All right, we are looking for the man in the middle for this one for Atlanta United, Ricardo Montero. So Ricardo Montero, 16th in apps. So fouls per game, 7th. So Ricardo Montero, and this is, and if you take out Joshua Encarnacion and Brandon Stevens, who've only had one match in the middle, Ricardo Montero is 5th in Major League Soccer this season. Obviously, it's a limited sample size. 27.75 fouls per match. Ricardo Fierro. So Ricardo Fierro and Alan Chapman are the edges of your bell curve. Fierro is at 35 2/3. Alan Chapman is 18 or something. I'll get that number in a second. But if you were to take those two, Alan Chapman, 14.83. Literally, Alan Chapman in 6 matches this year has called an average of 14.83 fouls. His average went down after the Atlanta match. He is further apart. It's now 4.4. He is 4.4 away from Torrey Penso, who is next to last. Alan Chapman, 29th at 14.83. I'm about to go on an Alan Chapman rant, so I'm going to go back to the first page. So Alan Chapman at 14.83 is one end of the bell curve. Technically, Joshua Encarnacion and Brandon Stevens are at the other end at 39. Ricardo Fierro will make him the edge, 35.67. So if you look at that, Ricardo Montero is 5th in fouls called, 27.75. Fouls per tackle, 11.83, so upper third, close to upper third with 29. Then penalties per match, and not a lot. Not a lot of penalties called by Ricardo Montero. So actually, I take that back. He's 2nd. So he is 2nd in penalties called per match at 0.75. Sergei Demyanchuk is at 1.3. 2nd is Ricardo Montero. So yellows per match, as we're looking for Montero, he is 2nd in yellows. He's given, and total number of yellows, obviously, with numbers changing and everything. He is 5th in yellows given, and he is tied for 1st with 2 others, Victor Rivas and John Freeman, in reds. So in 4 matches, he's given 3 red cards. Keep an eye on that. So tied for 1st in red cards. He is 5th in yellows. Yellows per match. He's second in yellows per match at 5.5. Tied for first in reds. Second by himself in yellows per match at 5.5. And he is second in penalties awarded. He was awarded one penalty. He's awarded 3 penalties in 4 matches this year. And he's 5th in fouls per game average at 27.75. So if we were to extrapolate his thought pattern here, calls a decent amount of fouls, isn't afraid to show a red, and isn't afraid to give a penalty. He's also not afraid to give yellows per match either. And so fouls per tackle, he is 11th. So it's not necessarily fouls per tackle where it comes into play, but in the number of fouls per match that he has called, that's what you're hunting for. That's what you're looking at when it comes to Ricardo Montero and his fouls. 7th in fouls, but really he's 5th. 27.75. Fouls per tackle, 0.83, upper third. Penalties per game, 0.75. Second in Major League Soccer in that. 3 pens called in 4 matches. Yellows per game, 5.5. And so literally yellows per, so, you know, it's like an average, and it's obviously it's kind of skewed with the amount of foul or the kind of foul, but 5.5 yellows per game, which puts him second. So that's what you're looking at. Not afraid to flash a red, 3 in 4 matches. Not afraid to give yellows. He gave 5.5 yellows so far this year. So not afraid to go to the spot, not afraid to show a red. Decent amount of fouls called and decent amount of yellows issued. Second in yellows, second in pens, second and tied for first in red cards. But like I said, it's a limited sample size, but that's where we're leaning here with Ricardo Montero. So that's what we're staring at with Ricardo Montero as the man in the middle tonight for Atlanta United and New England. So that is your information. And what I do is I go to who scored, and that's what I look at with that's where I get the numbers. Let me go back to 25 really quickly and see if it was pretty much the same with Ricardo Montero in 2025. We'll see if that was where he was consistently. 25. What the? No, I don't want playoff referee statistics. No, I don't want playoff referee statistics. I just want ref stats. I don't want MLS soccer playoff. I want MLS. It's like it always goes to default to things that I don't care about. So ref stats in 25. And we go Ricardo Montero. Fouls per match. Okay. He was 20th last year of 38 at 24.2. So his fouls per match number is up slightly year to year. Fouls per tackle is Ricardo Montero. He was 18th last year in fouls per tackle at 0.8. So upper half, 18th out of 38. Penalties per match, he was well down the list. He was 20th out of 38. Yellows per match, he was 20th at 4.07. Yellow cards last year, 19th at 61. So all of his numbers trending year to year are up. More fouls called. Fouls per tackle about the same. Far more penalties per game average. Far more yellow. Well, it's like 1.3 more yellows given. So 20% more yellow cards. And 3. So 12 to 13% more. So they're up above 10% in his foul numbers. Yellow cards are up 20%. Red cards, I mean, like I said, it's early, but how many red cards did he have last year? Wow. Okay. So did he have... Okay, so page 1 of 2. Let's go to the next. Let's go to the next page. Thank you. Thank you. Come on. So, wow. Okay. When it came to yellow, or when it came to... He only had 1 red card last year. He's got 3 already this year. So his foul numbers are up over 10%. His yellows are up over 20%. Fouls per tackle about the same. And where he's already given 3 reds this year, he only gave 1 red all last year. So it looks like Ricardo Montero is his whistle usage is trending upward. Good question, Abby, about yellow card accumulation. Let me check and see the notes. Let me see if we have notes. Notes. Hang on just a second. Let me find. Let me see. Do we have the Atlanta United notes posted for? All right, we have the availability report for Atlanta United. Miggy, Alzate, Santos out. Tomas Jacob is questionable with a lower leg injury. Okay, so let's see. Media availability for this week. Let's see. I don't see at the moment anything involving Atlanta in my mailbox. I don't think I have anything from Atlanta United when it comes to yellow card accumulation. Actually, let me check with my boss because I usually get game notes there. So hang on. Milestones, date specific, additional stats. Mihai Sanchez, Lucas Hoyos, nothing there. So here is the Atlanta. All right, so Atlanta notes. It is, Tony Husband and Ross Smith and the X-Man, Francisco Rivera, are calling the match for Apple TV. All right, so looking at yellow cards. That's offensive stats. What are the defensive stats for Atlanta United? As I sit here and I'm fishing for them quickly. That's the Revs. That's Atlanta. Literally, I'm trying to sift through a 49-page document here quickly. Okay, so game highs, scoring against the Revs. Okay, so all-time against and stats in Major League Soccer. Club facts. I need the longer notes with yellow cards. So that's individual statistics, regular season stats. Okay. Fouls called. What is that? I'm looking at things and I'm like, what? Open Cup career, Champions Cup career, penalty kicks. Abby, as I'm sitting here and I'm trying to find yellow card accumulation, I don't see anything. Of course, like I said, I'm at page 38 of 49 before we get into player bios and everything. Oh, who got the yellow cards? I don't think we've got. So Tristan, Lucas, Tomas, Mihai, Elias Baez. Tristan's with 2. Baez with 2. You got a lot of folks with 2. Yeah, you got a lot of folks with 2, I think. And Tomas Jacob has 3. So Jacob, and doing quick math, Tomas Jacob has 3. So I think you're in pretty decent shape coming into tonight with Atlanta United. And yeah, right. Yeah, and Abby, wondering if the situations involving the issuance of the red cards for Ricardo Montero. So that's we'll see if we can do some digging on that too. Let me do what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Miguel Gallardo set to join us in 5 minutes. and we'll talk about Major League Soccer on the whole this weekend and see what's going on. So today, what to watch brought to us by our friends at Fanati's, fntz.co/soccer down here. Link's important. Helps them, helps us, and helps you, adding more matches to everything you're already watching with Fanati's. You get all the BNs, you get Tigo Sports, CATV ties, you get French League, Polish League, and the Turkish League at BN. You get AFCON, you get the CAF, you get the Champions League, you get all the BNs, Libertadores, Sudamericana, it's all there at Fanati's, fntz.co/soccer down here. You get TVV out of Venezuela. You get CDO out of Chile, Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru, a lot of the first and second divisions in South America, all in one place. Okay. BN en Español has Liga at 1, Portuguese Cup at 3:45. The Taça de Portugal has Porto and Sporting. We'll probably talk to Nino Torres about it tomorrow. CBS Sports Network, Liga MX, late night, Necaxa and Chivas at 11. FS1 is where Atlanta and New England are with Tony and Ross, 7:55 kick. French Cup at 3 o'clock on FS2. USA, Burnley and Manchester City. This is the makeup game for Manchester City because of FA Cup. If they win, I think Burnley's relegated. And then you have Arsenal and Manchester City even on points. It's going to come down to goal difference down the stretch. BN en Español simulcasting what we talked about. ESPN Deportes has a doubleheader in La Liga at 1 and 3:30 involving Atleti at 1, Barca at 3:30. Fox Deportes has simulcasting of the French Cup at 3, Honduran League at 5, and Atlanta and New England at 7:45. Univision doubleheader, Atlas Tigres, Necaxa, Chivas. Apple TV, all the games tonight. ESPN Plus, La Liga, triple header or 3 games available. Athletic, Real Sociedad at 2, Barca, Celta de Vigo at 3:30. Sarasota and Corpus Christi out of League 1 is at 6:30 on the Plus. Fox ONE has the French Cup, the Honduran League, and the Atlanta match simulcast. Paramount Plus, 3 matches in the championship, all at 2:45, and then the Italian Cup at 3. Bournemouth and Leeds is on Peacock at 3 o'clock, and on the women's side on Peacock, the USL Super League is at 7 with DC and Fort Lauderdale. So that is what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Brought to us by our friends at Fanati's, fntz.co/soccer down here. So that is that's your TV run. But I would anticipate that a lot of folks for odds are, what are the odds for the weekend? So Lokeville wants to know if there's anything up for the weekend already. Since it's a 110 kick, Toronto's getting the matinees on Saturday. It's a 110 kick. Toronto right now favored at a -111 in the composite. Draws a +270, and Atlanta is a +290. So that's your juice boxes for Toronto and Atlanta. That's early. Obviously, we got a couple days, Lokeville, but right now that's the numbers. Toronto on the minus side. I probably would look at the goals, 3.5, 4.5, somewhere in there. And because there's a lot of goals that get scored. I'd love to know what the number of goals are on these matinee games that Toronto has at home. It's like no one's waking up in time, but the composite of goals scored in these home matches, borderline insanity. 2.5 is a -125. 3.5, well, it flips at 2 3/4, but 3.5 is a +200. -2.5, over under 2.5 is a -125. 3.5 is a +200. So that's where it turns. So we'll see what the skinny is there. But yeah, I'd love to know the total of goals scored and then the average, obviously, for these afternoon matinees that they have at BMO. And I don't know why they get all the afternoon matinees at BMO. Our friend Jess Charman and Ian Joy have been calling most of them, it seems. But I think Jess is Toronto, New York, Toronto. I think she's got the back and forth this week. I think she's working in the Northeast this weekend with Ian, and I think she's got one with Lori Lindsay too. I think Lori Lindsay matchup with Jess is tonight, and then I think that the matchup with and she's back with Ian on the weekend. So a lot of stuff. Jess is really traveling. Jess is doing a lot of traveling. So we'll see what it looks like with all the things, and I mean that, all the things. So we'll let you know what's going on with all of that. I'm trying to see if there's anything that has come across. The Hounds in Pittsburgh and FNB have reached a stadium naming rights deal. So at Highmark, home of the Riverhounds. It is now FNB. FNB is the official stadium naming rights partner of the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. So that is official. And it is now going to be FNB Stadium for the Riverhounds and the Riveters. So that is the official news there with that. Now, let's see. Trying to see if anything on the Twitters has happened. Esteval likely to miss the rest of the season with a hamstring injury. Ben Jacobs has been a very, very busy man. No shock. Liam Rosenior is in a fight to save his job, according to Ben. Chelsea Board are discussing a plan of action, having previously planned to review Rosenior at the end of next season. Then it's looking a little different right now. So it's looking a little different right now for Liam Rosenior and his time at Chelsea. It is 10:30. It's 10:31, actually. But it is time to catch up with a friend of ours who's indoors. He's indoors. Can you believe it? Miguel Gallardo is indoors.
What's going on, John? Pleasure to see you. And for a change, this time we're indoors. We're not getting that vitamin D today.
Nothing wrong with that, brother. I'm glad you were able to join us on the midweek to kind of break things down in Major League Soccer. I do have a couple of questions, but then we can just kind of freeform it and figure out what's on your mind as we're here. I got to start with the purple team and ask what in the wide world of sports is going on. So I will ask you, sir, what in the wide world of sports is going on with the purple team right now?
Yeah, I wish I knew. I wish they knew. I think that's the biggest question. Obviously, this is a rebuild year for Orlando City. Did I imagine it to be a rebuild year? Did they think it was going to be a rebuild year? I don't know, if I'm honest with you, because they had some really good pieces from last year that they did a really nice job during the season. They fell apart towards the end. There's been a change at the helm of the whole organization, soccer-wise, which is now it was Luis Musi, who was a VP of soccer operations, and now it's Ricardo Moreira. And he, I suppose, wants to put his own, touch on this team. And the first big move or acquisitions was to get 3 U22 initiative Brazilians that were unproven at the top level in the first division. And yes, it is true that Otavio, Thiago had a little bit more experience with the first team, but Iago, who was a center back, yes, he was a captain of the U19's Brazilian national team, but he wasn't really getting minutes with Flamengo, and probably not many young players will get minutes with Flamengo because that's one of the best teams in the continent.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is to gamble on 3 U22 initiative players and spend close to $10 million. It's what I just called it. It is a gamble. And as we start the season, it has not been a positive situation for those players. Now, there's also other things that are very important to note, like Robin Janssen, your captain, center back, goes down early on in the season. They just now got him back, and the result was the team is able to get a point. Wilder Cartagena was a player that was very important in 2024. They were hoping to get him back this season. He gets hurt again. He should be back, relatively soon. But Pasalic is not the Pasalic that started the season last year. Martin Ojeda is not having the start of the season that he had. But another move that was interesting was them getting rid of Luis Muriel, and there was a lot of criticism about him, about his lack of intensity when it comes to pressing, his lack of intensity when it comes to defending. But at the end of the day, that's not how the guy made his money, and probably should have known that when you brought him into Orlando City. Now, I will say that the best moments of Orlando City last year was with Muriel involved on the pitch. And obviously they get rid of him to make space for what we now know is going to be an Antoine Griezmann.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know the intricacies of, hey, could you have gotten rid of Muriel right before you get Griezmann? Like, I don't know those contractual obligations or those intricacies that maybe made you get rid of Muriel before the season started and you didn't really have a replacement for him. So, and I think that had to do with some of the results. And ultimately, the most important thing is you got rid of an experienced coach in Oscar Pareja who, call it what you want. He got the team in playoffs every year, and the team always looks stable. Now, was he the guy that's going to help you win a title? I think after 5 seasons, they decided that probably that wasn't the case. So, listen, I know that they're going through a lot of changes. The team is going to stabilize. It doesn't look good at the moment. Martin Peterman is an inexperienced coach at the first division. He did a great job with Orlando City B. He's coached in Argentina and other places, but it seems like Orlando City is going through some dark times, and I just don't know when those dark times are going to get better before the summer. And even when Antoine Griezmann gets involved, I think there's a lot more you need to do to this roster. That there's a lot more. There are a lot of weak spots, in my opinion. So interesting. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting times for Orlando City. Hopefully, they can start to see some change in the positive way after the World Cup when Antoine Griezmann comes into the team.
Yeah, because when we started the season, Oscar, and I still may have the soundbite, but Oscar was not a happy man at media day. He was not. And then you bring in Griffin Dorsey from Houston, and it made Ben Olsen not a happy man. But then you bring Griffin Dorsey over to help things out. But Oscar's like, well, I need A, B, C, D, and E to help things going on. And,
Sure.
and I wondered with what happened at the end of last year, where you got to a point, and then you end up with the fade, and then you get bounced in the and you have the early season successes, and then it just goes, And if you were going to be evaluated by the front office after last year, and you have Oscar getting, Oscar being displeased at media day, and then you have that quick trigger early in the season where were things completely untenable, and it just got to a point to where you couldn't do anything X number of matches in. So the patience that you showed by bringing him back didn't end up with the patience that you showed at the beginning of the year when things didn't get off to a start. Does that make? Am I making any sense here? It's just
No, you are making you are making a ton of sense. And look, I think that because Ricardo Moreira is new at this particular role, he's been a number 2 guy for years. I think that there's a lot of learning that needs to happen for him in this role, and there's so many things that now he's responsible for. I do think that them keeping Oscar Pareja was more of we're not really prepared to what's next.
Oh, okay.
And for what's next. And I will say this is that Oscar Pareja has been coaching for such a long time. He's been at the club for 5-6 years, and I think he kind of sensed where this was going in terms of some of the players that they were going to be bringing in, and some of the players that maybe were not going to come in based on maybe what Oscar Pareja wanted. And I do think that there was a lack of connection between him and the technical staff because I don't think that they were aligned in what they wanted. And I think that ultimately was the trigger for what ended up happening. And, I think they have a good relationship, of course. Oscar Pareja and Ricardo Moreira worked together for many years, and there's a lot of respect, a mutual respect between each other. But maybe they were not aligned in the vision of what they wanted. Ricardo Moreira wants a team to play a certain way. Oscar Pareja, wanted to play a certain way based on the players that he had. And I will say credit to Oscar Pareja that over the years, he evolved so much when it comes to the style of play, because I remember the first 2-3 years, it was the Papi special. It was score a goal, sit back, and try to, grind out a result. And I remember 2024 season, the team was winning, and then the subs that were coming in, they were attacking subs, and I'm like, wow, he's going for more goals. And then I had a personal conversation with him, and he told me, he's like, well, I'm at the mercy of what I have. So if I have players that are going to come in and change the game by scoring another goal, then that's what I'm going to do. And if I have players that are going to come in and help me solidify a victory, then that's what I'm going to do. So over the years, I saw an evolution of Orlando City when it comes to philosophy and playing style. And that obviously speaks a lot of Oscar Pareja. But Look, at the end of the day, I've been in a locker room where you've had the same coach for many, many years, and sometimes a different voice, a different message is needed. And I don't know that that's what was needed here from Orlando, but sometimes that's what it is. And I can't tell you, obviously as we see it now, it's not the right decision, but this isn't I would like to think that the idea of this is not let's win today. It's let's start rebuilding for tomorrow and start developing young players. My hope for Orlando City is that these young Brazilians, once they get acclimated, once they got a better roster around them, they become what Ricardo Moreira thinks they can become. And then they don't just become serviceable players for MLS, but are those players that you can sell to Europe. And if that's the model that Orlando City wants to go with, I don't know that. They haven't personally told me that, but it seems like that could be one of the ways that they want to go, right? They got a nice taste of it when they sold Freeman to Villarreal, and that probably got them excited. They say, well, where can we get more of these young players that we can sell to Europe? But it's not that easy. Freeman was a jewel that they found in South Florida, and they brought to Orlando City B, a couple of years before he made his debut with the first team. But the kid was developed in South Florida. But obviously they did a nice job of recruiting the player and then continuing to develop him and put him in Orlando City B, where he was a winger, scored a ton of goals, and turned him into a fullback. Now, hindsight 2020, a lot of people think, well, why didn't you put him like the year before that? You know what I mean? You already had him in the system. He was banging goals for fun. And look, ultimately, it worked out very well for them. And now he is in Villarreal. He'll go to the World Cup. I think now, because he's not playing as much in Villarreal, that looks a little bit grayer, for lack of a better word. But I think he'll be involved in the World Cup, and I think that was a nice experience for Orlando City, where maybe, just maybe, getting these Brazilian players is going to, that's the hope for them, is that they can develop them, put them in good situations, and then hopefully sell them to Europe.
Yeah, the whole thing with Oscar and the lack of patience is what really kind of got under my skin. It's like, well, if you were that fed up with him, then why didn't you just cut ties at the end of last year, so you're not having all of the shenanigans that you had at the beginning of the year, and then you dismiss him, and then you bring Martin Perelman up, who is, OCB, MLS Next Pro, and you're throwing him into this situation with players that he might know from, seeing on the other side of the training facility, but he's focused on OCB. And it's just it's like you opened your fridge, like when we're bachelors.
Yeah.
And it's like you open up your fridge. It's like, okay, it's time to eat dinner.
Let me see what I got.
Yeah, literally. It's like, okay, I want a sandwich. And then you just kind of look and you see, okay, is the bread moldy? No. Okay, so I can make a sandwich. What about the meat over here, the cheese here? Oh, I'll add some A1. It's like, literally, it's like you got all this stuff that's happening for this Dagwood sandwich. And it's just, what's the feedback that you're getting in Central Florida? What's the patience level with?
People are. I mean, you've seen at the attendance of the stadium. They're at 70%, maybe. I would argue even lower at times, and you can see it on social media. People are really, really upset, and I agree with you with the whole Oscar Pareja thing. I do think that this was, and I from what I understand, and don't quote me on this, Oscar Pareja, he told them, it's like, I am good. Like, if you guys want me to step aside at the end of the year, and they wanted to keep him. And then, Oscar, this was sort of a mutual decision. And I don't think they needed to force Oscar out, because Oscar was kind of prepared for this, as far as I understand. And like I said, he's got a reputation too. If he saw this coming, he's probably like, yep, I'm good.
Okay.
I took the team to playoffs every single year. I took him to a conference final. I took him to conference semifinal. I won a U.S. Open Cup. I brought playoffs every single year when the team had never made it to playoffs. If you look at his legacy with Orlando City, it's a pretty darn good one. And unfortunately, we live in a world where people remember what you're doing today, and not what you did yesterday. So imagine him seeing this boat sinking, and thinking, I don't want this to be the last thing people remember about me and my legacy with Orlando City, because, like I said, I think people will always respect him and admire him for what he was able to do with Orlando City.
It's a quick turn tonight. It is the purple team hosting Charlotte. Obviously, it's your dog tonight, and then you have to turn around, and then you're taking on DC on the road on Saturday night. When you look at these two matches back to back like this, what sticks in your head?
That they're both difficult matches, especially the one in Charlotte, even though it's at home. DC United, it's a little bit more attainable, but at the same time, DC United is probably looking at this game against Orlando City and thinking, yeah, we can win this one, right? So it's anyone's game. But, this one at home in particular for Charlotte, Charlotte's a really good team, very solid team. They're in playoff situation. They have a really good defense. They have Tim Ream as a leader on the back line, and people still question his ability to, move fast and be fluid.
They're looking at that driver's license, brother. That's what they're looking at.
That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, the dude still looks good. He's part of the national team, and he's a leader back there. And he's got really nice support with this young center back in Morrison Ajiman. Mm-hmm. He's got good fullbacks in Toffolo and Nathan Byrne. I mean, this team is solid. And then they have one of the best goalkeepers, in my opinion, in the league, in Christian Kalina. I mean, the dude is a stud. He's got, I was just looking at this before this because I was looking at other stats, but he's got the most saves in the league. He's got 45 saves in the league, and obviously that doesn't speak well of the defense. But,
I was going to say now.
But I will say this: part of Dean Smith's style is to be defensive. And look, and I say this to people all the time when they ask me about goalkeepers and particularly the Dane Sinclair's situation with Miami, right? Because when that signing happened, I called out and I said, look, I don't know that this is what they think it's going to be. You being a goalkeeper of the year, there's so much context to it. And I'll give you an example. Let's just look at the last 3 goalkeepers of the year. Who were they? Berkey from St. Louis. Yep. It was Kalina from Charlotte. It was Dane Sinclair from Minnesota. Mm-hmm. What was the common denominator of these teams that they played for? They were ultra defensive. They were low block teams. They were counterattacking teams. And so they gave up a lot of shots, but they were giving low percentage shots outside the box. And for the goalkeeper, speaking from my personal experience, that's the easiest thing to do as a goalkeeper. That's the one thing that you need to be good at, is being a shot stopper. Mm-hmm. And you could take 95% of the goalkeepers in Major League Soccer. They're all good shot stoppers. So stick most goalkeepers in those teams, and they will do a good job. Reason why is because the way that team defends, right? Yeah. And so I say that to say this about Kalina and Charlotte's defense. It's kind of by design that they take shots, but you could argue that they're low percentage shots because they're outside of the box shots, 4 shots. And in return, they're a team that can score goals. Wilfred Taha is a really good player in 1v1 situations. Vargas is doing a really nice job taking over for Abada, who's kind of, it's a roller coaster. The guy has a great game and then a really bad game, and Vargas is a little bit more consistent from that standpoint. And then you have Pep Biel in the middle of the field, who I think he's a fantastic player. The fact that they didn't have him in playoffs last year was to me a determining factor of why they weren't able to advance. And then up top, I mean, this is what I think about when I think of a well-planned sell of a player like Patrick Ajiman.
Oh, yeah.
They were very comfortable with that because they knew they had another guy that was probably better than Ajiman. And Ajiman is a stud. He's a speedster. He will press anything. He's a hard worker. But Tokolamari is probably a more complete player. So they're like, yeah, sure, we'll sell him because we know in an ideal case scenario for us, we have a player that can do a better job. Mm-hmm. So that, I think, lessons should be taken out of that transaction from Charlotte, speaking about other teams that we were speaking about. Yeah. But I think it's a very complete team. I think it's going to be very difficult for Orlando City. And let's see what Orlando City mentally is ready for, because, man, getting 6-0, 5-0, constantly losing. There's a little bit of, there's a little bit of confusion as to what's going on with the long-term project within the players, and maybe they have a clearer picture. I don't know, but that's difficult mentally because you go into games, you get scored on one goal, and then you put your head down, and it's like, oh my God, here we go all over again, and it just changes the way you approach the game. So it'll be interesting to see how they react. It was a good result against Houston, even though you were at home. But I think there were some nice things to build upon to head to go into this game.
One more question, and then I'll let you go to brunch and get on with your
You're
day.
good, man.
You spent your time as a player between the sticks, and so you know what it's like to face all these shots, having to stand on your head, go full extension, sit there and yelling at your center backs and positioning and being screened and all this kind of stuff. What is, from your, and this is where I need you to think about you as a player, and then I need you as the analyst to think about you and a skill set. Keepers have their own identities, basically.
Sure.
And when you go out of, basically when you cross the Rio Grande and you start heading south, what a lot of folks may think of as the U.S. goalkeeper idea gets different when you go Mexico, Central America, South America. And what I wanted to ask you was to kind of break down the idea of how different goalkeeping is when it comes to approach and bravery outside your box and being well off your line and being a sweeper keeper. Because there are times where this season where here in Atlanta, folks have seen Lucas Hoyos, and he'll be chasing after players trying to win possession outside the 18. He'll be 35 yards off his line playing sweeper keeper and thinking he's more of a 9 than he is a keeper. Can you, in your keeper brain,
sure,
break down the differences of the idea behind what we see in the South American and the Central American and the Mexico keepers versus what we're used to seeing here in Canada and the U.S.? How different is it, and why, and the makeup of these folks to become these kind of keepers? Can you break that down?
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's an interesting question. It's very loaded as well. I do think that the game is evolving, and you have South American goalkeepers becoming more shot stoppers and less mistake prone, and you have American goalkeepers who are in generations past more of shot stoppers, keep the game simple, keep the game in front of them, not necessarily guys that you're going to rely on to build out of the back. You're just going to rely on giving them the ball back, and they're going to take a touch and then boot it, and maybe boot it is a little bit offensive, more like look for a long pass. That's what I would say. And I'll do a little parenthesis here to explain, I think, a lot of the criticism that's been happening over the last few months with the goalkeeper situation with the U.S. men's national team, where people are like, well, what's happening? We used to have so many good goalkeepers, Tim Howard, Brad Friedel, Brad Guzan, and all these guys. I mean, we could throw keepers, up in the air. We just pick one. They're all good. But the game has evolved so much, and the United States team has evolved so much. Those teams back then, they were a lot more defensive. They were a lot more modest and humble when they played against bigger teams, so to speak. And I'll take you back to that World Cup. Was it South Africa when the United States won 1-0? Who was it? Was it against an African team, if I'm not mistaken? Anyway, Tim Howard broke the record in saves, and then the team ended up winning. But that's because the U.S. played a lot more defensive. And in the last few years, the U.S. has become more of a dominant in possession. They want to get numbers forward. They want to play teams. With the ball. They want to send fullbacks high. They want to control the game a little bit more, and that requires something different from the goalkeepers that it wasn't required in those years, right? If you put Matt Freese and Matt Turner in those national teams of 15 years ago, 20 years ago, they would be phenomenal because what they were asking from the goalkeeper is a lot different than what they're asking for today. And what I would argue is that if some of those top-level goalkeepers put them in the U.S. national team today, in the way they want to play today, I don't know if they will be as successful as they were back then, because it's just totally different the way the U.S. men's national team wants to play. Now, I will argue that all those guys were phenomenal athletes, and there's no doubt in my mind that they could adjust to what the game asked of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I say that to say that it's been evolving. The game is asking different things from goalkeepers. In South America, you have guys who are goalkeepers that were also very good on the ball because, we grow up playing soccer every single day outside, dribbling until we lose the ball. We're not passing it until we need to pass it. And, for myself, that was kind of my style as a player. I mean, I was a possession style goalkeeper. They could pass me the ball, I could break a line, I would make mistakes, but that was kind of part of the game, that's what Mikey Vars is asking for his goalkeeper. And then he made a mistake the other day and it goes viral, but that's because that's what they want from him. And for every that one mistake that he's made, you can go back and take a look at a bunch of clips where their goals start from a sequence from the goalkeeper being brave and breaking a line with a pass that is very risky. Absolutely. And if I was the coach, I'd be having a heart attack, but that's what they want from the guy. But it's very easy to focus on the mistakes, and that's a risk that you take when you play that way. So I think the game is evolving. Like I said, I think I like a combination of both. I really do. And as I grew in my career and as I start evolving in my career, I realized, you know what? Maybe I don't need to take so many risks coming out for balls, in the penalty area. Because in my mind, I was like, I want to prevent the guy hitting the ball that way I don't have to make a save, right?
Yeah.
And that takes a risk, and that doesn't go down in the stat sheet, and that doesn't look as cool as staying in your line, waiting for the guy to make a play, and then you have to make a save. Because if you get scored on, no problem. It was a clean header. But if you make a save, like, that's great. But I'm rambling a little bit here with that situation, but that's what I mean with Hoyos. With Hoyos, he takes a ton of risk. I think a lot of times unnecessary risks. I think that's part of what Tata Martino wants from him, because Tata Martino wants to be a possession-based team, and I don't know if Hebert is that guy. I don't know him as well as I would like to know him, just because I only have a sample size of when he was able to get some games. But I will tell you something very important, because I did ask Tata Martino about that situation. And I said, do you really want your goalkeeper to be so risky? What does Hoyos bring to the table that Hebert doesn't bring to the table? And I know what it is, but I want to hear it from you so that I can say on the broadcast, hey, Hoyos brings this to the table, because how can you explain to them that you're bringing a goalkeeper that's 36, 37 years old, that's 5'10", that in that particular time of our interview with Tata Martino had not had a great start, and he still hasn't proven to be a great goalkeeper. What is it about him that is making you play him over Hebert? And you know what he said to me? He said, we brought Hoyos as an investment to make Hebert better.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I thought that was really interesting. Now, how much do I believe of that? I don't know, because look, if Hoyos is not giving you the results, it's not, and I'm not saying he's the only player that's liable, because everybody there is in shambles at the moment. I would have thought that there would be opportunities to play Hebert more now because of the situation. And if your bet is your young goalkeeper, well, this is a time to play your young goalkeeper, because there's so many things that need fixing. Might as well put him in this situation to see what he can do. So anyway, I went a little long on that one, but that's a bit of the difference that I think of the South American and the American. But they're both evolving into ultimately what is the best goalkeeper. And I think it's a combination of everything.
Yeah, because I know that some folks might be drawn back to Jorge Campos and who he was. And
that is crazy.
And see those kinds of activities where, he thought he was a 9. We know this.
He was a 9. That's the difference with him. He actually played as a 9.
I did not know that.
But he plays games as a striker.
And so, I wanted to have folks kind of understand where Lucas Hoyos is between the ears, and just understand, how he was brought up and what he brings to the table. And I understand, and that's why I thought he was brought in with what Tata told you. Was I thought that you were going to have that experienced voice with, and Brad still is on campus too, so he gets to go back and forth with Brad. Jaden does, and he also gets to know from a 36-year-old Lucas Hoyos about how to work with your feet and all these kinds of things. But I wanted to have you, from your perspective, since you are a keeper, I wanted to have you kind of break it down to what folks can anticipate, should anticipate, and if they see X, Y, and Z, that they're sitting there going, okay, yeah, I heard, I heard the conversation that Nelly had with Miguel, and this is what he told me. So that's why I just wanted to have you bring it out there for folks so they knew what they were looking at.
Ultimately, it's about decision making, right? It's about decision making, and you can be the most technical goalkeeper, you can be the cleanest goalkeeper, but it's about decisions. And so, okay, yes, can Hoyos have the ability to make a 20-30 yard pass on the ground to a defensive midfielder or one of their number 8s, so that he can turn and then attack? Is that the right decision in that particular moment?
Mm-hmm.
That's what, to me, that's what it comes down to. It's decision making, and technical ability is one thing. Is making the right choice at the right time for what's better for your team. That's when good players separate from the not so good ones.
Okay. When's your next broadcast, by the way?
It'll be tonight. We have Columbus. I have Columbus and LA Galaxy. I'm here in Columbus right now. Beautiful weather. Yeah. Really excited about it. Obviously in the beginning of the season, before the season started, you would have thought that these two teams would have been in a much better situation. And I do think that talent-wise, that they do have what it takes to be playoff teams, and I think that they will get there. Especially now with LA Galaxy that is done with CONCACAF Champions Cup. They have some players back. They have Painter back tonight. They're coming off a pretty good result on the road against Dallas. And then Columbus Crew, we'll see how they react to the loss of Abu Ali, who was obviously a prolific goal scorer. But they do some really nice things. And obviously under Rydstrom, new coach, I mean, there's some similarities to what Wilfred Nancy was doing, but I have to give it to the players, because it's not easy to go from Wilfred Nancy to really anyone else. And I still think they have a good team. Rossi is a top player, and they have some real nice passages to play. Hopefully, it's a good game today. But I know it's going to be a game where both teams are going to want to get on the ball, and those games I enjoy.
Yep, and you get to hang out with our friend Chris Doran, the play-by-play voice for Columbus Crew. And
yes, sir. Nice guy.
He is a part of the fam. So when you see him, just give him a big old hug and a kiss, and say hi, and have a great call. Who's play-by-play with you tonight?
I got Ramses Sandoval.
Oh, okay, all right. So it is you and Ramses Sandoval tonight in Columbus at the Death Star as LAG takes on Crew. Good to see you, my friend. It's been entirely too long. Do not be a stranger. Have a great call. Save your voice. Go get some brunch, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you.
There goes Miguel Gallardo. Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. We got to catch up with him on a Wednesday. That was a very, very atypical. And like I said, the fact that Miguel was trying so hard last week on Friday to kind of jump in, and he was out in somebody's backyard in some forest somewhere in Central Florida. So the fact that we got him to hang out with us, that's always cool. All right. Gaza, on the game that Miguel was thinking about was the Belgium game in 2014, where he had the 9 gazillion saves against Belgium. So 16 saves against Belgium back in 2014. So that was the game that he was referencing with Tim Howard. All right. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch. And we already got to the what to watch part. So we'll give you all your rumors, and then we'll come back at noon. And it is Coach Cornejo from Dooley. We get to find out about Vienna. And it's Chad Griffin from Hebron Christian joining us at noon for Red Clay Wednesday. Wrexham got a big win yesterday, by the way, so they're still hanging around in the promotion playoff spots 3, 4, 5, and 6 in the championship. And so with their win over Oxford, which is one that they needed, it pushes Oxford almost to the point of relegation. Now Wrexham is now above Hull into 6th, level on points with Hull, and they have a goal difference of 2 better than Hull. So they're in on goal difference right now. So it could have a 4th consecutive promotion, but you're going up against Coventry and Middlesbrough. Coventry, I think Phil Parkinson has basically said to Coventry, hey, y'all, can you, take it easy? Just, sleep late in a hotel maybe. And so first season in the championship, Phil Parkinson yesterday said 70 points. It's a good statement for us in the championship. But now they got 2 matches to go to try and stay in the 6th spot to try and chase after a 4th consecutive promotion. That is crazy. That to me is absolutely crazy that you could have a 4th consecutive if they go through the promotion playoff. If they get in as the 6, and then they beat the 3, and then they beat the winner of the 4-5, they could be the 3rd team, fourth straight promotion. They're that close. 2 matches left regular season. Okay. Manchester United interested in signing Toon Koopmeiners, says Tuttosport, reportedly willing to take a chance despite a difficult season for the Bianconeri, during which he's been moved away from his preferred midfield position, deployed 12 times at center back. Koopmeiners' reps already assessing potential options. Galatasaray is also interested. Liverpool have shown strong interest in PSG's Randall Colomawani, according to Gazzetta. It is he's on loan at Spurs. Little chance of obviously remaining there permanently. And so Liverpool has identified him as a potential replacement for Mo Salah when he departs in the summer. Also is on Juve's radar. Bayern Munich have turned down inquiries from Real Madrid and Manchester City for Alexander Pavlovic, according to Bild's Christian Falk. Bayern have no interest in parting ways with him. He's established himself as a key player in Vincent Kompany's squad, scored in the second leg win in the quarters in Champions League over Los Blancos, made his debut for Bayern in October of 23, coming through the youth system, has a contract through 29. Barca laying the groundwork in their pursuit of Internazionale defender Alessandro Bastoni, says Mundo Deportivo. The La Liga club want to secure the 27-year-old international to a 5-year deal. They'll do everything possible to complete the switch to Camp Nou, including accepting a lower salary to help the club remain within financial limits. Previous reports have indicated any deal would require an offer worth the region of 75 million euro. Kobe Mainoo reached a verbal agreement over a new contract, according to the 3-letter paper. 21-year-old reportedly agreed to a new 5-year deal. Significant salary increase, seeing him earn in the region of £150,000 a week. Regular starter under Michael Carrick. 11 Premier League starts this season. The hierarchy hoping to make an announcement before the end of the season. Real Madrid have identified Stuttgart head coach Sebastian Hoeneß as a potential option for their next manager, now monitoring him very closely, according to Christian Falk. Sport, Barcelona is lining up a 15 million euro move for Real Sociedad keeper Alex Ramiro as a backup for Joan Garcia. Gazzetta again, AC Milan keeping close tabs on Atleti striker Alexander Sorloth amid plans to strengthen their forward line in the summer. Florian Plettenberg, Brighton keeping an eye on backup Manchester City keeper James Trafford, open to leaving the Etihad to get more regular minutes. Ben Jacobs once again. Bayern, Atleti, teams in the Prem looking at midfielder Samuel Martinez, recently became a free agent after leaving Atlético Nacional. Spurs confident they're keeping hold of Archie Gray if they survive relegation, according to Football Insider. Feyenoord yet to make a decision on the future of Raheem Sterling, despite reports the Eredivisie club had made plans to release him, 3-letter paper. Internazionale interested in Como midfielder Maximo Perroni, according to Corriere dello Sport. Ekrem Konur, Leicester expected to part ways with defender Caleb Okoli after being relegated. Interest from Milan, AC Milan, Bologna, and Torino. Bayern's defender Kim Min-jae isn't planning to leave the club in the summer, previously linked to AC Milan. That's from Florian Plettenberg. Galatasaray aren't planning to activate the option clause to sign on-loan Napoli winger Noah Lang permanently. Once again, that's from Nicola Shira. Let's see if there's anything else that we missed. Once again, we do have action going on in the Premier League today. Bournemouth Leeds, Burnley, Manchester City. Both of those are at 3 o'clock. We mentioned the discussion that the Chelsea boardroom is having over the future of Liam Rosenior. So we'll see what happens there. Roman Abramovich apparently has taken Jersey to a European Court of Human Rights in the Chelsea fund row. Tom Morgan at The Telegraph. Russian billionaire claims investigations by island authorities into his finances are unfair and abusive. Taking Jersey to the courts over a violation, in quotation marks. Russian lawyers have filed a court application claiming criminal investigations by island authorities into his finances are unfair, abusive, and a violation. 4-year legal battle. And now Abramovich has a heavyweight legal team that includes Eric Hirschman, prominent former White House advisor, and Lord Wolfson, King's Counsel, KC, shadow attorney general in the House of Lords. Now, remember back in November, following the removal of a privacy order, how the Jersey dispute was a key factor in delaying the release of the £2.33 billion of the Chelsea sale fund for war victims. Jersey first took action against Abramovich in 2022, freezing the assets historically linked to him there after Bowley Clearlake bought Chelsea as he was sanctioned with alleged links to Vladimir Putin. Application filed to the European Court this week. A representative for Abramovich told the Telegraph, and this is lawyer speak, so let me clear my throat. Quote, this investigation, which has dragged on for years without charges, transparency, or credible evidence, represents a clear abuse of power by the government of Jersey and a violation of fundamental rights. Authorities have withheld key information and ignored basic procedural safeguards, showing how this is not a legitimate legal process, but one driven by political motives. We expect the European Court of Human Rights to recognize these failures and reach the same conclusion, end quote, harumph, harumph, harumph. Abramovich camp says he's been unable to release the Chelsea funds he pledged for war victims because the money's tied up in the Jersey dispute. Company's House records show his UK-registered vehicle Ford Stam, which received the fund, has an outstanding $1.5 billion debt to Camberley International Investments, the Jersey parent company that was hit with an assets freeze. Abramovich, so according to the Telegraph, has defied warnings of UK court action for the release of the Chelsea funds, while his Jersey litigation remains ongoing. So if I'm reading this correctly, he has a UK-registered vehicle that got money, but the parent company to the whole thing that is Abramovich's is based in Jersey and is claiming it's owed $1.5 billion by the all right, so let me get this straight. The UK registered company of Abramovich, which has the fund, has a $1.5 billion debt to a Jersey parent company of Abramovich's that was hit with an assets freeze. So my guess is that what they're looking for, meaning Abramovich, is that one company owes the other. Abramovich will sit there and say, well, I have this debt I have to take care of. I can give you the 850 million pounds left over after I pay myself. How about that? That's my guess. So while in litigation, we have that going on with Roman Abramovich. So Abramovich back in April 22 said that the funds should be available for all Ukraine war victims. Royal Court of Jersey imposed a formal freezing order on 5.3 billion pounds worth of assets linked to him at the time. Abramovich has won several court decisions on the island since he seeks to retrieve data about the case. A formal respondent to the appeal will be in the United Kingdom now. So your requested required readings over at the Telegraph involving money and Roman Abramovich. Now, we mentioned Tchouameni and Manchester United, keeping an eye on all of that. Let's see. I think we're good with that paper. So let me see. So that's one paper down as we check all of the other notes. Let's see. Manchester United apparently has yet to decide if Michael Carrick will be offered the manager's job. Are you kidding? Guardian European Championship qualifying may switch to a Nations League style format, according to Nick Ames, exclusive to the Guardian. Men's tournament would follow the Women's World Cup method, and it would likely come in after Europe 2028. Plans presented to UEFA's National Team Competitions Committee yesterday, now considered by the individual football associations, who will then discuss them in smaller groups over the coming days. Final decision taken by the UEFA Executive Committee in Istanbul before the Europa League final. So keep an eye on that and how things could change. Let's see. David Silva, Project ACL. We talked about all these things. Coventry winning the championship. Lincoln got the League One title. It looks like the PIF owners are going to question Eddie Howe in the next week on the poor run of form. So keep an eye on that going forward as well. Let me see if there's anything else. I'm going to check one more source. Then we're out of here until noon when I come back. And we're talking high school with a couple of coaches. Let's see. Stats are being posted having to do with Liam Rosenior and their lack of success. I think we got it. I think we did. Okay. So once again, remember tonight. Well, we're going to make it right. So tonight at 6:30, Five Stripes Countdown, Abe and Maddie, kick 7:55, considering the match is on FS1. And after the match, it's going to be Five Stripes Count. It's going to be a full-time report with me and Abe up at the press box at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the radio booth. And then we will talk tomorrow about it and a bunch of other things. Here's the rundown. Tomorrow, I don't know if you saw this, but tomorrow we're going to lead off with a study that was taken involving the World Cup and the average cost of seeing a World Cup event in each city. So we're going to catch up with folks that went through all of the American cities and went through, and I want to find out, okay, how they came up with their numbers and all that kind of stuff. So they're going to bat lead off. Then tomorrow at 9:30, this is really cool. Since Atlanta is turning the page after tonight and New England and heading to Toronto, we're catching up with our friends from Footy Prime. James Sharman and the crew, Sharms, and I don't know how many others. Might be 2 or others. Who knows? But James Sharman and the Footy Prime crew, you might know them from their time in Canada. They've been with us before. They've got their programming now on Sirius XM up in Canada. So the Footy Prime guys and Footy Prime roster, like I said, I don't know how many, but Footy Prime is going to join us at 9:30 from 9:30 to 10. And then the Power Hour with Nino and Nico. And so that 9:30 segment will be where we squeeze in all the talk about Toronto and Atlanta and what happens tonight, and what happens on the weekend, and what we're anticipating. So finding out about a survey involving World Cup financials and how much money the people are spending at 9:05. Footy Prime folks at 9:30. Nino and Nico in the Power Hour at 10 and 10:30. And then tomorrow, once again, that's when we start our coverage of high school soccer. Cambridge and Ola, 6 and 8, combination of me, Jason, and Drew will be down at Ola in suburban Atlanta in McDonough and Henry County, and we'll have that one for you to start off our high school postseason coverage there as well. So that's the rundown for everything going on today on a Wall Pass Wednesday, because it's crazy. So we're going to be back here in about 45 minutes to talk about everything high school. But since it is the end of the show, I got to say hi to everybody before we're out of here and go through all of it. So it is David. And that's David. That's going to be another question. How many World Cup stadia are less than a 2-mile walk from a real city? David and Abby and Nightsella, welcome. Nightsella, welcome. I think this is the first time that you are here, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. So don't be a stranger. Glad you're watching on YouTube. Got the bots. Abby and Lokeville and Derek and David and Wiley and Ricky and D. Graham. Thanks for coming on and being a part of the Twitch pitch. And Nightsella, if you are here still, thanks for coming on. Thank you, David. Thank you, all of you folks. We'll be back at it again in less than 45 minutes. We're going to talk high school. Since it's the end of the Wall Pass Wednesday part of the program, Mucha Platiel played safe, means I get to do this. See you at noon.